All right, ATL, how y'all doing, man? This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh. You are on with News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. I'm standing in for DB Derrick Boazman. Want to just wish him a happy birthday. He's overseas right now with his travel group. I think they're maybe in France. I know they went to Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you so much, DB, for allowing me this opportunity to address the people and just make sure we talk about some important issues and important topics, right? So for people who don't know me, my name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. I'm a native of Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised, born in Crawford Long Hospital, man. Shout out to all my Grady baby people, all my Grady baby family. It's no beef. We didn't choose it. We just had to go whoever didn't have the most traffic. You know, already know how we talking about, right? So Crawford Long, baby. Born in Atlanta, raised on the east side, man, on East Atlanta, Decatur, and Ellenwood. Went to Muhammad Schools of Atlanta, Green Forest Christian Academy, graduated high school from Cedar Grove High School, and ended up going to Georgia Southern University. So I'm in the mental health space. I'm an educational consultant. I've been doing educational consulting ever since I was a kid. A lot of people may not know this. So my background is in social advocacy, community activities. Right now, I advocate for families, specifically parents, children. I'm also giving techniques and strategies to all of my teachers and administrators, people who interact with children. And today we're going to talk about a lot of different topics. It does not have to have a specific flow or a specific structure. We're going to just talk about things that need to be talked about. So if you have anything that you'd like to say or ask, we're going to have a Q&A throughout the entire show today. The number to the station is 404-726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. You're on live with Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. If you want to know some more information, you can definitely go to that website. I'm also an author. The name of my book is called The Thrival Kit, The Best Teacher is Always the Best Student. It's available on Amazon, Books A Million. You can also email me directly at info@manhoodmindset.com if you'd like a copy. We're going to be talking about some of the titles in the book and to kind of let you know the background and the approach that I have with helping our people in our community. When I say our people, I'm not just talking about the people that we know. Our people are the people that are actually going in the same direction, but we never met them before a day in our lives, right? So, again, that number is 404-726-1380. We're going to talk about parenthood, and I want to talk about my journey in parenthood, my journey in sonhood, being a child, my childhood, right, and how I got involved into this work. This work is very, very important, but it is also hard to describe because this work may not have a specific destination, but it always has a specific assignment for that day. I know a lot of people out here are struggling and focused on trying to find their purpose. So we want to talk to some people who are struggling finding their purpose today. I had a young man I was talking to yesterday, adult man. He's a new father, really great, genuine man. He's helped out so many people. And he was like, man, I just want to know if I'm doing exactly what God asked me to do. What is my purpose in life? And we had a very in-depth conversation, and I was honest with him because I told him, man, some of the best teachers let you know they don't know everything, but they will at least let you know what they found out. I'm going to repeat what I just said. Some of the best teachers in the world will admit that they don't know everything, but they will at least be honest enough to tell you what they know, right? So the first thing we talked about was, man, in order to find your purpose, you have to understand that you were meant for more than one. A lot of times when it's very, very hard to find one purpose that you were born for and built for, is because you were built to do more than one thing. And that's what makes that conversation a little bit difficult. It makes us blur. It makes our vision kind of go all over the place because when you think you were born to do one thing, you could ignore or reject or just not even recognize some of the many things you're able to do. I'll give you all an example. When you look at the tree, you can see how many things that a tree can do. It can provide shelter. It can provide shade. It can bear fruit, right? It can hold water. It can do so many different things. And it's stationary. It does not move anywhere, but it bears fruit all day, right? It can continuously produce. And it has so many different services it can provide. So when you ask yourself, what is the purpose of a tree? It's not what it can do. The purpose is to be itself. One of the things that can hide your purpose is trying to be something that is not as good as being you. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. A lot of us, when you talk to people and say, what do you want to do? A lot of people say, well, I just want to be a good person. And that's very, very good, but it's repeated because we've heard it before. We've heard people say that before, and a lot of people may not know this. Being a good person is not as great as being who you were made to be, right? So a lot of us don't even know that the word good is subjective, and it's subjected to what other people need from you at that moment. So you could be a good person to somebody and be considered the devil to somebody else at the same time doing the same thing. So you want to be very, very careful about trying to be a good person. What you want to do is try your best to be an honest person. And sometimes when you're honest, you're not looked at as being good because it is subjective based off how people can use you, what are you going to be used for, how convenient you are. And I will tell you the truth, it will make you free. And freedom is always going to be inconvenient to people who need you to be in bondage. I want to say that again. The truth is extremely inconvenient. And if you're standing on truth, be prepared not to be looked at as a good person. And what's going to happen is your self-esteem, your confidence, your self-awareness, self-knowledge, the knowledge of self, man, and the courage to stand on what you know about yourself is going to take you to be very, very inconvenient. And you're going to have to disappoint a lot of people. So let me tell you the difference between being a disappointment and being disrespectful. One of the things you can do to find your purpose is find different ways to disappoint people without disrespecting them. One of the biggest things that you want to do is learn how to respect yourself, and that way it will become more familiar on how to respect other people. So say, for instance, I was talking to a young man about 20 minutes ago, one of my previous clients. He said, Doc, I was looking at boundaries, man, and noticing how important boundaries are. And I said, well, if you really look at the human body, just look at your skin. Your skin is a boundary. You know, your body is covered in flesh. That is a boundary. We won't know who you are unless you appeared in the flesh. So your whole identity is wrapped up in a boundary. And people who do not have boundaries struggle with identity. That's what I want y'all to understand. In order to be respected, you have to be respectful. And I'm not talking about how you respect other people. I'm talking about how much of respect are you full of in yourself, right? When you go around this world, are you consistent in what you say no to, right? And I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine. He does not drink alcohol at all, right? Very, very close friend of mine. And he's been so consistent for the 30 years that I've known this man that he says, you know, anytime right now, we're joking and whatnot, and he'll be offered, but I have witnessed him outside of my presence, and he will still say no matter where he is. That is a sign of self-respect. So guess what? He has respected himself so much that he has taught me how to respect him. I hope somebody can actually hear what I'm saying. I know a lot of us, we go out into the world looking for people to respect us, and they're just waiting on us to respect ourselves. I know a lot of people going around trying to force respect. And the biggest thing about respect, it is not forced. It is shown, right? So a lot of us, how many of y'all just, I know you're just going to call in for a minute. Just think to yourself, man, how many of y'all just learn through examples? How many of y'all have learned by watching people do something, right? Now, the beautiful thing about knowing what to do by watching someone else do it, that they'll call it the best educators or emulators, right? They'll show you what they're asking you to do. They're not just going to tell you what to do. They're going to teach you how to do it by being an example. An example is extremely important. Being an example is basically you are given an amplified message that was internal, right? So something that you actually understand. That example paints a picture. And how many of us know that a picture is worth 1,000 words and actions speak louder than words, all right? So guess what? Most of us are trying to teach through words and talking and yelling and screaming. But the best way to teach people through actions and examples. I want y'all to hear me loud and clear, because a lot of our parents are wondering, man, what is going on with this new generation? And I would tell all of my parents, children do not dictate society. They respond to the society we invited them to. As a new father, I've been a mentor for a long time, but I've only been a father for 4 years. I'm learning that any and everything that I have not learned, my children will expose. And I look at my children like not what's wrong with them, but what is wrong with the environment that I brought them to. So if they're doing something that I think should not be done, instead of asking, what is wrong with you? I'm going to ask, what messages have you seen from me that taught you this behavior? A lot of parents are going to have to understand, too, that your day was your day for a reason. Your day does matter. I always tell people, I always look at my elders and say, look, the old school is still open, but there are other schools have been built, too. Old school is not the only school. We have to be very, very honest about that. And a lot of things that we are seeing, the patterns that I'm looking at in today's society, we are dealing with a lot of elder pride. A lot of my elders, I want my elders to hear me loud and clear. There's nothing wrong with what you know, but the approach, and you always have to ask yourself, does this work? Not am I right, but is this working? Some of my elders, and I do a lot of parent groups, and a lot of my elders are like, well, I got yelled at. I turned out pretty well. And I always ask them, well, just because you survive an accident doesn't mean that the accident was supposed to actually happen, right? So we're gonna go ahead and go to a commercial real quick, and we're gonna want you all to just think about what I'm talking about, man, because we got some parents already calling in. We got things lighting up already. The number is 404-726-1380, man. Again, this is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh, Manhood Mindset, News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. 404-726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. This is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. We're talking about a lot of different topics today, man. We're talking about parenthood. We're talking about social interaction. We're talking about conflict resolution, man. We're going to talk about a lot about bullying today. And bullying in every aspect, bullying within the family, bullying within the school, bullying in the workplace. We're dealing with just conflict overall, man. What should we do when we don't know what to do, right? How many people know how to listen? I know a lot of people are looking for people to listen to them, but I do want people to know that listening is a skill. It is not a right. It's a skill. A lot of people want people to understand where they are and where they're from and where they're going to and things of that nature, and that is a gift, right? But a lot of people have the hearing ability, but they don't have the listening skill. So if you want people to listen to you, you may want to seek out a professional or someone who's intentional about honing that listening skill. You just don't want to go out into the world and hope and wish that people will listen to you because they just because they can hear you doesn't mean they understand you and know how to look behind the words that you are expressing, man. So we've been talking about a lot of different things, man. We're also going to talk about parenthood. A lot of people may not understand that being a parent is the most important job on the planet that does not require a skill. I'm going to repeat that as well. Being a parent is the most important job on the planet. In order for you to get hired, it does not require a skill. It just requires a decision, right? And we understand that people didn't walk into parenthood at the same time, but we do understand that a lot of us who have become parents, all of us are still trying to figure it out, right? And when we tried to apply for being parents, our resume was not in question. We just needed space, opportunity, and a decision, man. So I do want to let people know that if you are a parent, if you're thinking about being a parent, please consider how your childhood was, man, because a lot of times when you become parents, you're so gung-ho about your position that you forget what it was like to be a child. I want everyone to just start focusing on the old saying, children are to be seen and not heard, and I want y'all to understand that culture has created a major divide in the communication between parents and children, right? If someone is to be seen and not heard, what does that say about them? And more importantly, what does that say about you? If I'm supposed to see you but not hear you, is that a relationship that is healthy, right? And a lot of parents may not understand this, and I will say it is okay to respect your children. It is okay to respect your children. Some of us are, some parents that I'm engaging with are older children with a bigger budget. And we've seen that in our society, right? We've seen a lot of people with a parent position, but a child's disposition, right? We have a lot of people who are still activating their trauma from their childhood, and they're spreading it out through their power in their position as a parent. And they know that people have to obey them based off the law and based off the leverage that they have in the home, but they may not have the skill set to, to positively uplift a child into a place where they actually want them to be. So if you're a parent who's still struggling with your own childhood, and you are a parent as well, I do want you to just at least start off with this, that perfection is not good enough. Perfection is never the goal. The reason why I want you all to understand that perfection is not the goal is because perfection literally does not exist. Instead of trying to be a good parent or the perfect parent, focus on being the parent of the child that's in front of you, right? And specifically, if you have more than one child, it's going to be very, very easy to fall into that trap to try to learn every child equally, right? And the beautiful thing about the word equal, if it's not a number associated with it, you cannot measure it, right? What you want to do is make sure you love each child accurately and intentionally, right? And so instead of equality, let's look at intentionality. What is your intent with this child? Do you want this child just not to feel bad, or do you want to make sure this child gets everything that they need based off who they are? And it's a beautiful thing. Just like I was telling you, the young man I was talking to yesterday, he said, man, I just want to be a good dad. And I said, well, his son's name was Brian. I said, do you want to be a good dad, or do you want to be Brian's dad? And he was like, well, I've never heard that before. What's the difference? And I said, well, a good dad has no name. Brian needs to know his dad, who his dad was before he became a father, right? And one of the biggest things that I'm seeing in a lot of families is that we are suffering through not knowing each other, right? Now, we know each other's position, but we really don't know each other like that. Now, we may know how we respond in certain situations, but how many people actually know their parents by their first name? You may know your mother and your father, but you don't know Lisa. You don't know Daryl. You don't know Bobby. You don't know Stephanie, but you know your mom and dad. And I've noticed this because I've attended so many different memorial services and funerals of people who had to bury a parent they've never met. And I want people to know, man, look, if your parent is still alive, even if your parent has passed away, you do have an opportunity to meet that person for the first time by asking the right amount of questions and the specific questions you need, right? So a lot of times, man, we just get caught up in our positions, and we forget to look for the personality, right? Just make sure you never, ever lose yourself in your positions. You're going to have so many different hats you got to wear throughout your entire life. Make sure you don't lose yourself in your hat, man. Don't lose your head in your hat. My grandmother tells me that all the time, man. Never lose who you are about what you have to do in that moment. Yes, you may be occupied in this school. You may be occupied in that company, but don't lose who you are, because at the end of the day, they had to hire you. They didn't just hire an employee. They hired you. You brought something specific to them that no one else could. Regardless of a skill set, no one else on this planet has your presence, and your children deserve to learn who actually brought them here, not just a parent, but who are you? And a lot of parents are still suffering through identity issues, right? A lot of parents still don't know who they are. A lot of parents are still going around trying to make other people proud instead of really being confident in who they really are. And that's one of the most important things we have to learn in society, y'all. I know we want to impress people. I know we want to make other people proud. I know we want people to accept us. But validation is a very, very dangerous drug. Validation is something that is external, and our assignment, our purpose in life is internal, man. I know a lot of times when we want to go out there and try to, go against the narrative. We want to change the narrative. Anybody ever heard of that, man? I just want to change the narrative. And that's where that good person comes from, because a lot of us have dedicated our entire lives trying to change a story that had nothing to do with us in the first place. Your job is not to change anyone else's mind. Your job is to use yours. I'm going to repeat what I just said. You were not born to change someone else's mind. You were born to use your own. and know how other people use theirs. But their mind is their business and their responsibility. Your mind is between you and the person and the entity and the God that gave it to you. We are not responsible for half of the things we make ourselves responsible for. You're here to be the greatest version of yourself and be the highest, be at the highest level possible, so you can be an inspiration, not a dictator. And you're not trying to force anyone to be just like you. You're not trying to make anyone just like you. You're not trying to provide any carbon copies of yourself. But you are here to let people know what it's like to be confident, to be sure of yourself. And this thing that we see that's happening in our families and in our schools and in our churches and our corporate buildings, man, insecurity. We're going to have a huge conversation across the board, man. Again, this number is 404-726-1380. That number again is 404-726-1380. A lot of people have actually gone through bullying their entire lives, and they have dedicated their lives to being a good person. What they may not understand is the person that they're trying to be is based off them trying to be safe, not secure, right? And safety is a beautiful thing, but if we know we are born in spiritual warfare and we know that every day has a challenge, safety is a great thing to look for, but we may want to look for the security in our minds and the confidence in our skill sets and the self-esteem that we need to wake up every day and give it our best. Because if we sit here and try to wait for the world to accept us, we will never, ever accept ourselves, because you were still trying to dictate your own worth by how other people feel about you. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. We're going to go to another break. This is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. All right, News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. The number is 404-726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. 1380. We're talking about a lot of different things today, man. Parenting, self-esteem, finding your purpose, man, finding your significant other. So I had a lot of people talk about, how do you know when you are dating the right person or you're going to marry the right person? The beautiful thing about it, no one knows. I'm just being honest with you, man. No one really knows, but what you can do, of course, that's a joke. You know, people know who they're married to a certain extent. But you have to at least be honest that you are about to commit to someone who's still trying to figure out who they are as well. As long as a person is living, they're still trying to figure out who they are and more ideas about themselves. So no matter who you are deciding to date, one of the best things you can do is make sure you know who you are while you're dating other people. I'm going to say that again. We come in with expectations, right? For another person to be this ideal person for us, right? The beautiful thing about a relationship, you do have to show up with a contribution, right? Relationships are about effort, about contribution. It's about selflessness. Yes. Do you benefit from relationships? Absolutely. You don't want anything to waste time. You don't want anything to cause damage. But you want to make sure that the person you are actually talking to are coming to contribute, the contributions to that relationship, right? So a lot of people may not know that I deal with a lot of students, a lot of children, right, and a lot of different families as well. Please keep in mind there were a lot of families created in duty, not with intent. All right. So let me tell you what I mean by this. A lot of the things that I am actually seeing and a lot of issues with parents and couples and children across the world, across this nation, is that a lot of people brought them into this world unintentionally. And unfortunately, the cause and effect of that is usually, and the pattern that I am seeing, this is not true for everyone, but a lot of people treat their children based off how they brought them. So if you did not plan for your children, I'm seeing a similarity for a lot of people. If they did not properly intentionally plan to have a child with that person, they treat that child a little differently than they would if they intentionally brought them. Right. There's a lot of neglect. Right. There's a lot of resentment going on. And you can kind of tell, you know, and sometimes when I sit back and look at some parents and I notice how they talk to their children, how they yell and scream or demean the child and things of that nature. And I just sit back and I say, ma'am or sir, do me a favor, kind of tell me how you became that child's parent, and be honest with me, right? Was it intentional? Do you even know the person, right? And I will tell you all this, y'all. The children are responding to how we act towards each other. Now, we may not tell them everything verbally, but through our body language, our tone of voice, and how we talk about the other parent, children internalize that. So what a lot of people may want to start considering is, even if you're not getting along with the other parent, we will have to get to a point when we are not dogging out the other parent in front of the child. We're going to have to get to that point, because children are internalizing that. And when they go out into society, they're internally in battle with themselves, because externally, if both sides of them cannot get along, internally, it can happen the same exact way. So I'm asking a lot of my parents, man, if you've gotten to the point where you just can't get along with your spouse or the co-parent or your child's father or the child's mother, please elevate and prioritize the child's mental, physical, and emotional well-being by how you treat each other in front of that. And a lot of my parents don't understand this. Verbal abuse in front of a child is still considered child abuse. I talk to a lot of my fathers too, and there's a lot of men who are going through divorces. They're going through custody battles and things of that nature, because they might have had a child with someone they didn't intend for it to be their child's mother. They wanted children, but they didn't want it in this manner, right? So now they're in a position where they are fighting for access to their own children. And psychologically, I think we're going to have some very, very serious conversations, intentional conversations about what happens psychologically to a human being when they're when their children are forcefully being removed from their presence, right? What happens to a person psychologically when their children are removed from their presence? Again, this number is 404-726-1380. Again, this is 404-726-1380. It's a lot of different situations we're dealing with out here across the board, not just in this nation, but across this planet. There's a lot of parent issues going on, a lot of relationship issues. And I was telling y'all a little bit before, when I mentor these young students, I'm asking them to date. If they're out there and they're interested in dating, I'm asking them to be psychological single parents. And a lot of people don't know what I mean by that, right? So I ask kids, I say, look, if you can see yourself being a parent one day, you need to carry yourself like a father and a mother right now. Now, sometimes my parents get a little out of whack when I say that. And be like, are you trying to encourage my children to have children? I'm not encouraging them to have children right now, but I'm asking them to carry themselves like they're already a parent, right? And this is what I ask my parents. I always ask them, would you trust your child with someone you don't know? And they're like, no, absolutely not. And I said, I'm asking your child to treat their body like their child, because literally and biologically, our children are on our bodies before we become parents, right? When we share our bodies with another person, that is an invitation for a child to enter this planet. And we have to be honest about that, right? So I'm asking the youth, and I'm asking parents to consider this. You don't have to do it if you think it's against your culture, you think it's against your belief, you think it's against how you roll, so be it. You don't have to do anything, but this is something that I'm saying that's helping. And I'm talking to a lot of football players, a lot of ladies in the school systems and things of that nature, and I'm asking them, can you date like you're already a mother? And that puts them in a little bit more mature space, right? And so that way, if you know how a lot of my single parents out there who are still in the dating field, have y'all noticed that the people you're dating, you take time before you bring them to your children for them to meet, right? Because you don't want your children to witness all these people going in and out of your life, right? So I'm asking you to psychologically become a parent while you're still a student. Right. And that helps with your maturity level, to help with your confidence, that helps with your behavior budget. And this is a concept I want people to consider. I talk to a lot of young men, especially a lot of young men who are in emotionally charged environments. And I know a lot of us love to talk about this generation, this something, this, and they, when I was growing up, when I was growing up, people talked about my generation, right? And I think that's just what people do. There's always something wrong with the people younger than you, right? So we're going to talk about a little bit more about that. This number is 404-726-1380. 404-726-1380. You're on with Dr. Mary and Christopher Pugh, man. All right, this is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. The number here is 404-726-1380. Again, the number is 404-726-1380. We're talking about the idea and the psychological preparation of parenthood, man, and it starts with who you think you are and who you think you should be choosing, right? How do we vet? Does anybody out there know how to vet the significant other or a spouse? How many people have actually been taught how to vet people in general? I know sometimes we go off vibes and feelings and things of that nature, man. Do you know how to go off behavior patterns? Do you know how to go off situational behavior? Do you know how to just look at a person and see if they practice what they preach, right? And I know a lot of times we pick people based off how we feel, right? And a lot of times I ask a couple or a person that had a child by another person and say, well, why did you pick that person? And they say, well, I felt like, or I was in love. And I always ask people this question, and it's not because it's a specific answer, but the question is more powerful than the answer. What is love without respect? I'm going to repeat that question to you. What is love without respect? Do you have such strong feelings for a person that you omit the disrespect that you witness that they have towards you, or the things that you have respect for, or things that you're passionate about? A lot of people don't understand this. You can try to change people, but you will end up being changed yourself, right? And a lot of people talk about systems, right, man? We need to change the system. I want y'all to look at people and systems like seeds. You will not be able to change a seed from what it is. You will make a decision whether you want to eat from a tree that bears its fruit. That's your only decision. A lot of the times when people say, well, I thought I could change that person. And I've heard that statement over and over again. Think about how many times you heard people complain about their significant other or spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And they say, well, I thought I can change them. And you sit there and you just look at them like, why would you date somebody you would think you can change? And that's the reason why you have to start looking internally. Why are you getting in relationships in the first place? Are you getting in relationships for mercenary motives, for selfish reasons? Or are you getting in relationships to contribute? Because honestly, if you're getting in relationships to contribute, changing a person from who they are should be the last thing on your mind. If you're dating someone to change them, you really don't want them in the first place. And that's what's happening to our children. A lot of us are choosing people collectively, and this may not pertain to you individually, but how many of us have actually witnessed this in our close friend groups, in our families, in our social groups, even in our corporate spaces? People are choosing people they can change. And that may be one of the most selfish things you can do. And if you're choosing someone you think you can change and think you can change them by bringing a child into it, you're using the child for leverage and not love. And that's the issue. A lot of the children are finding out they were used as pawns in a game that they did not want to play. So I want all of us to start thinking about that, man. But it's a lot of things that we want. And I know our feelings do matter. I know a lot of feelings are being talked about. But I just want y'all to know feelings are to be considered, not necessarily prioritized over the facts and the truth and honesty, right? You don't want to be so emotionally empathetic and understanding that you forget to tell yourself the truth, because what's happening now, you have so many people who lied to themselves and pretended other people did it. How many of y'all have seen red flags and convinced yourself that it wasn't what you just saw? And so this is what I'm seeing with a lot of couples. A lot of couples, the individual in the relationship lied to themselves about what they were looking at and pretended that the other person lied to them. So now they're a victim and they don't even know they're a victim, but now they're a villain. So I want y'all to understand this too. Be very careful of victimizing yourself and blaming other people, because that's how you become a villain in your own family, in your own friend groups. Some people are a victim of their own choices, and they're mad at everyone else because they let themselves do it. Well, a lot of people do not have to control you. A lot of people are not responsible for your development. They are responsible for how they treat you, but they are not responsible for how you treat yourself. The best form of self-respect is to tell yourself the truth about everything, about you, about the people around you, about how you grew up, what was supposed to happen, and more importantly, what was not supposed to happen. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. I know I'm talking to someone, and even if you're not agreeing with what I'm saying, you do know that you have seen what I'm saying, because a lot of times when we're hearing certain topics, we get caught up in whether we agree or not, and our agreement is not the topic. Is it the truth? Have you seen it? Have you witnessed it? I don't necessarily need teammates. We need witnesses right now. So we need a lot more responsible people who are out there and involving themselves, because this selfishness is really deteriorating. And this is not a race thing. Selfishness is older than race. Violence is older than race. Deception is older than race. So I'm telling you, the things that I'm talking about is it goes beyond specific racial backgrounds. It goes across nations, across this whole entire planet. And we have to start being honest with ourselves about what we're doing with ourselves. And before we go to our next break, I want to read an excerpt out of my book. It's called A Thrival Kit, The Best Teacher is Always the Best Student, by Dr. Mary and Christopher Pugh. It's on Amazon and Books A Million. You can reach out to me at info@manhood-mindset to get your copy. But I wanted to read out of a chapter called Elevators and Highways, right? And this is for the people who actually find themselves in situations that you didn't know that you might have been coerced, or you might have coerced yourself because you had a specific type of fear associated with it. So on page 45, it says, make sure to never allow someone to put their fears on your future and name it love. The fearful will crush your dreams and tell you that they don't want you to get hurt or disappointed, and they will try to convince you that they are looking out for your best interests. The insecure people will use their fears to keep you from overcoming obstacles in life. You have the option to use the insecurities of others as research instead of a permanent lane to stay in. Their life is not your life. Their experience is not your experience. Carefully interview them and ask them about the mistakes they made that control their outlook on life. Sometimes they will hide specific details because of shame, guilt, and embarrassment. Your success could highlight their failure. There goes light producing more shade. Do they want you to be safe, or do they want to make sure you don't overcome the obstacles that crush them? Can they handle the pressure of admitting that some of their mistakes were the result of the lack of confidence? Or will they allow their pride to lure you into the abyss of shame and mediocrity because their misery needs company? Staying in your lane sounds good until you see an accident ahead. Going with the flow feels good until there's a cliff in front of you. Never be ashamed or scared to switch lanes to solidify your future. Sometimes our life is altered because the lane we were comfortable in is shut down. It does not matter how people feel about your lane. Their emotions, fears, apprehensions, and insecurities cannot give you your purpose. They can only make you confused about it. Switch lanes to get to your destination, people. You will see the accidents that happened in the past as you move forward. These mistakes that we are noticing, and this is me talking here, that's the end of that chapter, Elevators and Highways and Thrival Kit, the best teacher is always the best student. We need to learn from the mistakes of the past, learn from them, use mistakes as your teacher, use them as evidence of things that you do not have to repeat. Use evidence, use your mistakes, and use the mistakes of others as research, y'all. There's a lot of things that happen in our childhood that we are just repeating because it's familiar. But those are the mistakes that we don't have to repeat as long as we understand how to learn from it. So we got to just stay on the course, y'all. I'm not trying to preach to anyone. I'm not trying to look down or judge. But I am telling you the patterns that I'm seeing out here across all races, backgrounds, nationalities, across it all, man. And we're going to talk about gender communication between men and women. What are some of the things that we need to work on? And it's not necessarily the same podcast, who's wrong and who ain't nobody and who's doing what to who. This is something that we have to rebuild our families with, and communication is the key. So we're going to be right back in a few minutes. This is 404 726-1380. This is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. And again, my name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. Make sure you call in. We'll be right back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. The number to the station is 404-726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. I'm getting some text messages here. A lot of people are listening, tuning in. I know some of y'all are driving at work and things of that nature, man. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you call in. If you got any questions or comments, man, if you got anything to say, if you agree or disagree, if you have any insight or anything that you'd like to add, 404-726-1380, News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. We're talking about a lot of different topics today. We're talking about parenthood. We're talking about social health, mental health. We're talking about a lot of different things, parenthood, school systems. We're talking about family circles. We're talking about friendships also, too. So a lot of us, we were talking about before we went to the break about how we get into certain types of relationships, and not all relationships that we're talking about are romantic relationships. We're also talking about friendships, too. A lot of us are still in friendships that were not genuine. A lot of us are still loyal to a lot of people who we've never had a genuine relationship with. A lot of people we have in our lives right now, you have to look at your own inventory. Again, this may not apply to everyone. I want to be very, very clear about this. But you have a lot of people who are in political relationships with people for over a certain amount of time and not genuine relationships, right? And we've had people who align with different people for whatever reasons, and their reasons were not for each other. They might have had a mutual goal, or they may have had a mutual enemy, or they may have had a mutual friend at the time, or they might have been teammates or whatever. And you have some people who are still in each other's lives, man, but they have no genuine foundation. They have no goal. They have no instance of reality within their relationship. And I want y'all to be very, very careful and intentional with the people that you bring into your life, man. And this is not a judgment zone. This is just observation. A lot of us are still trying to figure out who we are and what we want, and that affects our choices, right? And so your understanding and your respect of yourself will let you know what you're willing to tolerate from other people. So we have a call coming in. Let me see here. Who do we have? Do you already text my name? Just go to him. Okay. You're on live, News and Talk, WAOK. This is Dr. Pugh. Who am I talking to?
I just want to say to the young man, he is telling, it's good information he's giving, very good information, especially about the children. Mm-hmm. I just enjoy that so much, and we just need to pay attention to that and do better with our children, okay?
Yes, ma'am. May I have your name?
Miss Johnson.
Miss Johnson, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for your comment. I really appreciate it.
Yes, you're great. You're giving out great advice, okay? I wish we take heed to it, okay?
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you so much, Miss Johnson. Thank you so much. And we're talking about the children. The children are our present and our future, y'all. So we need to make sure that we're having honest conversations. On my website, I sell shirts that say honest conversations are mandatory on manhoodmindset.com, because we have to have these conversations. They're going to be difficult. A lot of the conversations we're not going to like. We're not going to like what other people say, and how they say it. Sometimes we're going to start talking about the tone. I know sometimes when things get uncomfortable and inconvenient, we start talking about it's not what you say, but how you say it. But the truth does not recruit, and the truth does not have a customer service arm to it. The truth just stands up on its own, and the truth does not recruit. Sometimes when we're telling the truth, y'all, we're going to have to be prepared to be alone and isolated. Sometimes when you're isolated in the truth, it's more powerful than be validated with a lie. I'm going to say this one more time, y'all. Sometimes it is better. Now, I ain't going to say sometimes, all the time. It is better to be isolated, standing on truth, than be validated, standing on a lie. And a lot of times we want to make people feel better. And sometimes the things that we say rub people the wrong way. And sometimes people, it may ruffle people's feathers, but like the elders used to tell me, if you ruffle people's feathers, it's not that you have to change what you're doing. You're going to ask them why they got feathers on in the first place, right? So we always have to make sure that we are intentional about who we are and what we do and what we're trying to do. And that's what the topic of the children. Are we bringing them to this world with intentionality? Are we intentionally bringing children to this world? Because like I said a couple of segments ago, the patterns that I am witnessing, this is not an opinion, y'all. This is what I am looking at. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I witnessed growing up. I saw other people in other families, and the background of how they got here usually matches the pattern of the treatment that they experience, right? So if you had people who had a child with a person they do not like, do not want, and do not respect, what kind of behavior, what kind of treatment do you think the child is going to go through? If they had a child with someone they don't respect, do you think the child is automatically going to and magically going to be respected? I have not seen quite a bit of instances where that may be the case. Usually people treat the children based off how they feel about the parent. And we're just going to have to be honest about it, right? It may not be true in all cases. Some people adopt. Some people have children from one-night stands. A lot of people have hookups. A lot of people dated people for a little moment, had a child and didn't work out, and they still have respect for each other. I am not talking about those instances, ladies and gentlemen. I am specifically talking about the people who unintentionally had a child. They hooked up with people. They may not have respect for the person they share their body with, and it's not judgmental, but this is the pattern. This is the pattern that we're seeing, and children are born into that foundation, and that foundation is based off feelings, not necessarily a genuine intent to start a family. So the only thing I'm asking is to consider having a conversation with the children. They don't have to change their past. What they're going to have to do is invest in their own future. And the best way to invest in your own future is have a very successful and fruitful self-esteem that is about building our community, not getting revenge in it. Because a lot of us are repeating things that we don't understand in front of children. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes I go into the school system and I hear children repeating things I'm seeing on TV programs, right? I had a young lady, she was in 6th grade. I'll never forget this. She said, well, Dr. Pugh, I'm not getting married because all men do is cheat. And I'm like, baby, how old are you? And I think she was like 11, 12, 13, something like that. And for her to already have that, I know some people are like, well, yeah, they do. I say, well, listen to me, y'all. No one knows everybody. And I understand that projection is very easy to do, but I want y'all to understand, like I told y'all before, the children are watching, the children are listening. And how we program our children is going to affect the future that we're going to have to live in. So do you want a whole bunch of pessimistic children, or do you want a lot of prepared children who are intentional, who they share their time, their mind, and their bodies with, right? So we can have a whole bunch of children. So guess what happens if that young lady thinks all men are nothing? What kind of men do you think she's going to start settling for if that's all she thinks is out there? Let's think about this, y'all. If we keep denigrating a certain population, and young people think no one out there is good, they're going to justify picking people who mean them no well at all. They're going to justify picking people that mean them harm. So we got to be very careful and intentional. I'm not looking for perfection. We're about to go to a break. We're not looking for perfection, y'all. Perfection is not good enough. How about some purpose? How about some purpose? News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. The number is 404-726-1380. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for reaching out. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you for your feedback. 404-726-1380. This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. We'll be right back. 726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. Again, my name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. We got a couple of people that just called in. We got Joy from Atlanta. Okay. We got Joy. Joy, can you hear me?
This is JT.
Oh, this is JT. I apologize. No. You got Joy too? Joy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What's your question or comment?
This was a little while ago, but you briefly touched on having genuine friendship foundations and those relationships being political and or transactional. So I was asking what your advice would be on navigating, I guess, this current season of isolation and loneliness.
Gotcha, man. Great question. I want to make sure that I got it right. So you're going off my comment earlier about some friendships are not built on genuine foundations. It's usually like a political affiliation or a transactional affiliation. You want to know how to navigate those spaces. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So the first thing I would say is to make sure that if anybody's going to tell you the truth about your relationships, make sure it's you. A lot of people like to, I know I always say the truth will make you free, and sometimes you got to unshackle yourself, right? And a lot of times we hold on to relationships based off what we hope they will change into. And I don't know if you heard this earlier, a lot of us get into relationships to change people. I don't know what that's about, but all of us to a certain extent have done it through hope and through love. But one of the best things we can do is accept the things that we cannot change. And have courage enough to change the things we can and wisdom to know the difference. So the beautiful thing about it is accepting the things that we cannot change. One of those things are people. Another thing we cannot change is how we met those people. So a lot of friendships, if they were built on deceiving something, if they were built on trying to plot on someone else, if they were built on, if my relationship with this person was built on trying to do something that was not righteous at all, I'm going to have to be honest about that. I can't expect someone to be righteous when I met them in an unrighteous field. Now, don't get me wrong. Do people change? Are we supposed to judge? Are we supposed to forgive? Are we not supposed to judge people? Of course. However, we're not supposed to lie to ourselves in the process. So how do we start that? Tell the truth to yourself. If this person has not been their best to you in the last 10 years, stop labeling them your best friend. Just tell them, call them by their name. You don't even have to give them a label. You'd be like, hey, I know Lisa, I know Charles. Yes, I've known them for 10 years. You don't have to give them a superlative or a label to justify their behavior. Because sometimes what we do, we start tolerating certain behavior out of this loyalty to longevity thing that we do in our minds. And only way we can break that is through the truth. Remember, the truth will set you free from believing a lie you told yourself. And I'm not saying that you did it, but human behavior has shown me that we will lie to ourselves to justify what we want to do, or what's worse, what we're scared of someone else doing, like leaving us. So just prepare your mind by saying, hey, this is how I met this person. You're going to believe their behavior, not just their words, because a lot of people will tell you they love you and disrespect you. And unfortunately, a lot of people have associated love and abuse, because a lot of people grew up in a household where they said, well, I did this because I love you. And they didn't add context. They only added feelings, right? So a lot of us are justifying being in dangerous places based off a temporary feeling, and those temporary feelings are not enough. So that right there, if you can just start telling yourself the truth about what you're looking at, you're not judging them, but you are observing their behavior. Just start there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Gotcha. What other question or comment do you have?
That was the only question I had, but you're doing a great job, and it's been a good listen so far.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. I hope all things continue to be well for you. Stay blessed and stay clear and have clarity on everything that you approach in the rest of your life, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care. All right. Our next caller, we have JT. JT from Atlanta. You there, JT?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Enjoying your program. First time I've ever heard it. And I listen to WAOK. When are you usually on?
Well, I'm a guest today. I'm a guest standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. He's away on vacation right now, celebrating his birthday. So I was invited to be a guest host for today.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, but now, you have a website, or are you on Facebook?
Yes,
and
yes.
What's the spelling of your last name?
Yes. So my website is manhoodmindset.com. Again, that is manhoodmindset.com. On Facebook is under Christopher Pugh, and on all other social media is under Manhood Mindset, and Twitter, X or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of his Manhood Mindset and Manhood Mindset Consulting.
And how do you spell? What's the spelling of your last name?
My last name is Pugh. P-U-G-H. P is in Paul, U is in universe, G is in George, H is in hat. P-U-G-H.
Yeah, I look forward to. Do you have a YouTube also?
Yes, it's under Manhood Mindset. When you go to YouTube.com, just type in Manhood Mindset and my last name, and a lot of my videos will pop
I may
up.
have come across it. Okay. Yeah, all your things, the things that you're saying, it's funny. A friend of mine and I were talking not too long ago, but the things you're saying, the key thing you're saying is truth.
Yes.
You see, people, and I'll just say it. I'll ask you because you're the expert.
Okay.
Now, is there a difference in how women approach a relationship, which become a romantic relationship? Okay. Or possibly looking for a serious relationship or whatever, or just a male-female relationship, period.
Yeah.
Now, if you can briefly say, what's the difference in how women approach, and I guess we could start make it specific to a particular culture or not. It's probably the same for both of them, but maybe a little different too. But what's the difference in the way women approach a relationship, and the difference how a man or a child or a boy, teen, high school, what's the difference in how they approach it, and what their perception of what a relationship is?
I love that question. And I'm going to go right into the fire pit or the lion's den, because a lot of times when we ask about how women do X, Y, and Z, people start standing up and say, oh, he better be careful. I don't care about being careful. I need to be truthful, right? So the first thing I like to...
Exactly.
Yeah, so I want to be truthful because the children are listening. And one of the things that the children... It's hard to respect a man who tiptoes around the truth. So I'm going to tell the truth, but I like to tell the truth with context, right? So before I say this, I like to say I have not met all women, right? So there's no way in the world I can comment on all women. This is for people who listen to contend, right? So what I would like to do, I will answer your question about skill sets first, then gender. Is that okay? All right.
I'm sorry. Say you're going to answer it about what now?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question based off skill set first. Then I'm going to answer it based off gender. Okay. Because you asked me about women, right? The beautiful thing about that is because we do have a set of skills, but a skill does not have a gender. Listening skills have a intention and they have a pattern, right? Unfortunately, we have so many people who listen with their feelings and they don't listen with their ears. And I'm going to show, yes, and that it can go cross gender, right? But there is a gender divide in communication. So I'm not dodging your question, but I love context so much that I have to add it in order for me not to confuse children. Okay. Right. So now when children are listening, I always talk like children are listening. I talk to adults, but I talk to like I know a child is in the room. Regardless of your gender, you need to have, we're going to commercial. Okay. All right, JT, we got to go to a quick commercial break, but I can hold over? Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, well, we do have to go to it though, right? Yeah. Okay. But JT, hold on, man. I'm going to answer your question, but I need you on while I answer your question. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to be right back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, 44726-1380. We'll be right back. All right. ATL, man, we're right back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, sitting in for Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of Manhood Mindset. We're still on the line with JT. JT, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Again, I just want to reiterate for our audience members who are just not coming back. You asked, what is the difference between the way women approach relationships versus men and children, right? Is that correct? Yep.
Correct.
Gotcha. And I wanted to start off with the skill set. So across the board, generally, this is a general statement. Then I'll go to the gender statement. Generally, remember early in the show, I was talking about listening is a skill set. Hearing is an ability, right? So anytime when you're dealing with relationships, a lot of people think relationships are based off feelings, but relationships are sustained through a skill set. So a lot of people think their feelings can sustain a relationship, and they found out more times than not that how they felt about a person did not sustain when the skill was needed. Okay, so you have a lot of people who hear with their feelings. So you may ask a person a question, and they don't even understand the question. They're going to respond with how they feel, not what you said.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, a lot of our relationships, our family relationships, business relationships, if somebody takes something out of context, they're going to put it into confusion. I'm going to repeat what I just said. Anytime when someone takes a statement outside of the context, they're really entering it into confusion, right? So we have a skill set deficit.
Yeah.
We have a huge skill set deficit just based off basic communication, right? We have a lot of feelers and not enough communicators. All right, that's problem. That's problem number one. Now, my experience between some of the women that I've encountered, ever since I grew up, I've encountered women who were extremely in tune with how they felt. Okay. All right.
Right.
And again, I've never met every woman. I haven't met all women. I've met enough though. Okay. And I love women so much. I was surrounded by women my entire life. I've interacted with women, and actually the women in my life are the main reason why I'm building families, because I'm helping to rebuild families through the mindset of the man, because a lot of the women that I was around, they did not have the male image inside of their homes.
Right. Well, that's really the natural way for the man to, be a family builder and not a family wrecker.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens is you have a man who may be the head of the family, but you have a lot of women who are head of the house. Okay. So you have a lot of children, unless, remember all of the men and women that we're talking about, they used to be children, but unfortunately a lot of people are still stuck in their childhood, in their adulthood. And this is what I would like to say to everybody while I'm answering your question. I know it's kind of lengthy, but it matters, right? A lot of people don't know this. You will date the adult, but you're going to end up marrying the child.
That's right. I love it.
You're gonna date the adult, because the adult is the representative. But when that child comes out, remember, children usually play when things get comfortable.
Right.
Okay, and so relationships usually provide a level of comfort, and so we're wondering what happens with the relationships. Well, you dated the adult, and men and women dated the adult, and when people get comfortable, the triggers start coming out. Well, how somebody yelled at me a long time ago, you remind me of that person who hurt my feelings in 4th grade.
Right.
You start reminding people of past bullying, past abuse, and things of that nature. And a lot of people who have not dealt with their childhood issues bring their issues into their adulthood and make the partner in front of them responsible for it. So now my experience now, and this is based off communication skills. Based off the people who only talk with their feelings and not based off what they actually heard, they usually take things out of context and destroy relationships based off what they feel by talking through accusations. All right. Now let me give you an example. So you ever said something to a person and they say, so what you really say, basically what you're trying to say is, right? And they start speaking for you. I have witnessed too many people speak for the person that just spoke.
Yeah.
And it's a form of disrespect. So guess what happens? Women want to be loved, and a lot of men want to be respected, right? So what happens is when men are disrespected, they withdraw their love.
Exactly.
And a lot of ladies don't know this, is because when a man is not respected, he is no longer welcome in the space. And we know any space where a man is not welcome, his life expectancy goes down by, I don't know how many %. It's not safe for us to be there, right? We have to be chosen in order for us to flourish into a certain environment. So if you have a lot of people who grew up in a childhood with a whole bunch of suspicion, whole bunch of doubt, a lot of pain and anger, and what they're doing is trying to feel their way through a relationship and say, hey, I want to base this relationship how I temporarily feel about you. It is a recipe for a lot of disasters that I'm witnessing right now. So
let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Does that have anything to do with people being narcissistic?
Of course. Okay. Now let's look for the people, because one of the things I'm in the process of getting my therapist license right now, right? And what I like to do is, first of all, I notice that there are a lot of mental health terms that are being thrown around by people who don't know what they mean. So for me to be very, very let's try to be responsible for some of it. I'm gonna go to Psychology Today, right? A narcissist. I'm gonna read it for the people for context. We don't have to agree with this, but at least for the sake of the conversation, this is what a narcissist means according to Psychology Today. Someone who has an excessive interest or an admiration of themselves. Okay, it's a diagnosable mental health condition known as narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I guess this is the difference. You can have instances of narcissism. That doesn't mean you have narcissistic personality disorder. So in order for somebody that has the disorder, that means their everyday functioning has to be so out of whack that you're so narcissistic that you can't even function as a human being. Does that make sense? But guess what? An easier word for that is, can we be selfish? Yes. That is a more socially more understandable term. Does that make sense? So I know we throw around narcissists, but a lot of us are just plain old selfish, and some of us are more selfish than others, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I don't want to take up all your time, but
no, go ahead.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to get in touch with you, man, because that's something I've kind of been. I started to major in psych when I was in college. Yeah. But I figured I can make more money in marketing, right?
For sure.
But my gift was caring about people. I care about people. Yeah. And the thing you said earlier about children. Yeah. There's a verse in the Bible that says, if someone makes this little child stumble, it's better that they put a millstone around their neck and are thrown into the sea. Bro. Okay? Exactly. So that tells you. Say it again? No, I'm agreeing with you. I said exactly. Yeah. So I like your emphasis on that. And I'm going to let some other people call in because I think you got great information, man, and continue to come on the radio. I'll be in touch with you because I need to get some clarity on some things. For sure. Yeah. Reach out to me at manhoodmindset.com or email me at info@manhoodmindset.com. This is news. Okay, man. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, JT, for your support and calling in. Thank you very much. This is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh. We'll be right back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com, author of Thrival, Kid, the best teacher's always the best student. Call in 404-726-1380. Again, that number is 404-726-1380. Man, we got our next caller, Jihad. Jihad from the ATL, man. Jihad, are you there?
I'm good, sir. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well, man. Best day of my life, man. Thank you so much for calling in. What's your question or comment?
Thank you for your conversation.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to address two things, if I could. The first one would be, is there a template for all of those different types of relationships that we can measure our relationships by? That's marriage, that's business, that's all of the different types of relationships you mentioned. That's the first question. Okay. Is there a template? Yeah, and I'm not trying to be cliche about anything, but I will be honest. The template is in Genesis. That's the template that I've seen. That's the template that I study, and that's the template that I help when we have men's groups. We go straight to Genesis and find out his purpose, because it's hard to get in a relationship with someone where you don't even have a relationship with the Creator. You know what I'm saying? So when you don't know yourself, you won't even know who you choose by default. Okay. And sometimes when we have, a lot of people out here who have a low self-esteem or experience a low self-esteem at the moment, they choose people based off who they think they deserve. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So the best way to get into a relationship is have an amazing relationship with your Creator, then get to know the person He assigned you to, which is you. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes we are so focused on loving other people and taking care of other people that we neglect the self. And specifically for men, a lot of men are not even involved or not even allowed in their own families because they think they're supposed to sacrifice when they're just supposed to serve. Does that make sense? And a lot of times, and the best thing for a lot of our men, because, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about men, but not a lot of things to say to men. We've been told to protect and provide, but we forgot the first person we're supposed to protect is us. The first person we're supposed to provide for is us.
You see what I'm saying? And that way, when when a family has a healthy, strong, psychologically sound, spiritually affluent father, everybody benefits by default. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I'm happy that you directed, and like you said, you might not want to say the Genesis, but the reality of it is there's templates for relationships.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's right there.
Whether we can talk about them, and for those of us who have, we can talk about them in principles, because that's what we find in the Genesis and all religious scriptures.
Yeah,
is principles.
It is.
And when we can have the conversation based on those principles, because we have to have some kind of template. You know
right.
what I'm saying? The second part of my question deals with Western culture.
Yeah.
And European, well, I'm going to say European or Western culture.
For sure.
And this particular culture is basically contradictory to establishing really good relationships.
Yes.
Especially now.
Yeah.
It hasn't, I don't think it has always been that way to some degree, but I think it grew that way over a period of time, and now we're measuring relationships based upon this not perverted. No, I don't want to use perverted because I'm not talking about homosexuality. Okay. I'm just talking about perverted in the sense of mindset, unnatural mindset in how to deal with relationships. And the one I wanted you to talk about, if you could, because it creates such a damage in my position, is that boyfriend and girlfriend. In other cultures, a lot of cultures, they don't have boyfriends and girlfriends. And I'm thinking that the damage in Western culture of young people having, when they say boyfriend and girlfriend, they're actually having adult relationships. I'm not talking about sex. I'm just talking about adult relationships or adult mindset, where you even think that the young guy might think he owns this particular girl now, or he demands a certain obedience from her, et cetera, without any responsibility whatsoever. And I think that the relationships that this culture puts us in, it damages people. And then when they get to be grown, you're dealing with somebody who had many relationships in some cases, and then you're dealing with all these issues, like you said earlier, that really shouldn't even be there if we wasn't playing play girlfriend, play boyfriend, what this culture produces. And we see the effects of it now, because we don't have stable relationships anywhere. And I want you to address that.
And I'll tell you one thing, and like I told the gentleman who called JT earlier, that when I address questions, I love to add context before I address your direct question, right? So my context that I would like to add before I address your question is sometimes when we start looking at culture, it's a broad general stroke, and a lot of people may not even know what we mean by Western culture, right? So for the listeners who not understanding what we are talking about, some people who have studied history notice that there's a huge difference between our ancestors and how they built families versus the different nations that we've encountered in the last 400, 500 years, right? Now, a lot of us don't understand that. So guess what I'm going to use? I'm not going to use it instead of, but for the context part, I'm going to use, if we ever start a relationship outside of truth, we're playing a dangerous game, no matter whose country we're talking about, no matter whose nationality. We can be Western, Eastern, Northern, or Southern. If it's false, it's going to cause a lot of damage. Does that make sense? All right. So when we start talking about European culture, in my men's group, we start talking about romance, and the root word of romance is Roman. That's Roman culture. Now, a lot of times we had a really good group the other day, and the man was he was educating me. He said, well, in Roman culture, he said it was about romance. You had to woo the woman. In our culture, the women chose us based off which man was ideal in the community, who respected him, his ability to navigate the land. Like, it was so many different things that he possessed within himself. He did not have to entertain her. He just had to show who he was so she can actively and intentionally choose to be his wife. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so when I learned that, I was like, well, hold on, we didn't have to pursue. He said, no. You have to pursue, but she will have to introduce herself because she saw you live your purpose. That was our culture. Now the difference between now, you know what makes this confusing also, Jihad? A lot of us think race and culture means the same thing, and that's what's confusing. right? We have so many different cultures within one race. We were our own nationality before we became black people. So when we try to be one race, there's a lot of nations trying to get along, and it's hard to have a whole bunch of nations agree to be one thing. Okay? So guess what happens with culture, though, Jihad? Every culture begins with the mindset of the man who started his own family. So let me give you an example. You just talked about the teenagers doing boyfriend and girlfriend stuff, right? So guess what? In the Bible, they were talking about different fathers. And in order for me to give my daughter away to you, I need to know you. So there was before you was her boyfriend, you were my mentee. You see how that works? So guess what we need to get back to? And I got two daughters, right? And I told my wife the other day, I said, I don't have it. Like somebody said, you don't have any sons. I said, not yet, but I'm going to mentor their boyfriends. I'm going to mentor their friends to the point where I need to know who I'm giving my daughter to. Why would I give my daughter away to a stranger? I need to know you for X amount of years. The amount of years you're dating her, I need to know you. And I need to know your bloodline, and I need to know your intent. Last but not least, Brother Jihad, I think the culture has to start in the home, and every man needs to have a family code of conduct and a family constitution. That's and I know we talk about European or Western culture, but that intentional culture inside of our home, that's where we got to start.
Right, and I'm going to say also they call what you and I just discussed old school.
Oh man,
that old school,
it's still open, man. I tell people all the time, old school is still open for business.
It's principles. No, it's not old school because the new standard that we are doing now is a mess.
Yeah,
and it's creating a mess.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think a lady called you earlier, and part of her question was, how do you deal with the loneliness? She was asking, how do you deal with this loneliness because of this particular condition and situation?
Tell yourself the truth about it.
You know what I mean? So thank you very much, bro, and I appreciate you, and keep up the good work.
No problem. Thank you so much. You're listening to News and Talk WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com, the author. Welcome back, ATL. News and Talk WAOK, the voice of the community, 404-726-1380, standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. Author of the Thrival Kit, The Best Teacher is Always the Best Student, available on Amazon, Books A Million, and directly at info@manhoodmindset.com. We're talking about a lot of different things today. We're talking about a lot of relationships. We're talking about childhood. We're talking about parenthood. We're talking about a lot of different standards and principles, right? And we just talked to Jihad a few seconds ago about where is this template about relationships, man, and we unapologetically talk about the first template of all relationships was in Genesis, man, and how we met each other. And a lot of our relationships is knowing who created you first. It's hard to choose a person when you don't know who you are. And a lot of times, and if people can really just be honest about it, a lot of us have been through a lot of tumultuous relationships, right? And a lot of us have chosen people based off of our mental state at the time. And you will let yourself know, if you tell yourself the truth, you will put yourself in better positions when you are more psychologically sound, spiritually ready, and mentally prepared to contribute, because you know what you stand for and you know what you can offer. I know a lot of times people get triggered or upset when someone says, well, what are you going to bring to this relationship? I know a lot of my ladies out there in the counseling world, and I know a lot of my clients and just a lot of people that I talk to, they do not like the table conversation. It's like, why are men asking me, what do I bring to the table, right? And I get it. Whatever triggers you, triggers you. I don't know why tables are offensive. I have no idea. But I do know a lot of our ladies do not like the topic of what do I bring to the table, and a lot of men are not appreciative of, why do I have to make a certain amount of money to be able to talk to someone? Why do I have to have a certain salary to be able to contribute, right? And I want a lot of people to understand this. Everybody has a right. Everyone has a right to know what they stand for, what they stand on, and what they require, right? A lot of times people don't understand this. Relationships take effort and they take work. Why? Nothing that requires, well, let me make sure I say this correctly. if you don't work for it and you didn't have to put any effort towards it, it's going to be harder to respect it. And what is a relationship without respect? I'm going to ask that question again. What is that relationship without respect? Now, again, like we said earlier in the segments, we have a high level of selfishness and a low level of self-awareness. A lot of people only know what they want, but a lot of people don't know what they can contribute. And that's because a lot of people may not have a specific skill set, but they have a lot of expectations. So I always tell people this: if your expectations outnumber and outweigh your effort, you may want to chill out on being in any type of relationship, whether it be family relationships, friendships, romantic or interpersonal relationships, when your intimate relationships, and even corporate relationships. Let's talk about when we actually go and look for a job, because when we apply ourselves, we're letting people know what we bring to the table. And I want people to understand this. At this day and age, in 2026, if you are not vetting the people that you're trying to spend time with and space with, you are playing a dangerous game, because I will tell you, the culture of fake it till you make it is a consistent culture. You have a lot of people out here who've been told to fake it till they make it. And some people have faked it while they made it all the way to being a grandparent. And now you got a lot of people just because they have faked it and got different positions and got different tools and strategies and networking, and they've been lying this whole time. Anytime when you ask them who they are, they may get offended, and they should, because the truth should always offend deception. I will tell you that again. Anytime when you ask someone to tell you the truth and they get offended by it, your job is to believe the behavior, not force the statement. There are a lot of people out here don't even know what the truth is, so how can they tell it? You just need to be honest with yourself that they can't tell it, they refuse to tell it. And so guess what you need to do as a human being? You must tell the truth to yourself. You are your first assignment, like we said to Brother Jihad before. In Genesis, man, we were told to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, then have dominion before we even met our wife. So it's a lot of things we have to do. And I want to tell the gentleman something, too. As you read Genesis, and trust me, y'all, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I've read it a couple of times, and I use it as a foundation when we have groups for families, specifically when I'm talking to single women and single mothers. A lot of us have been programmed when we look at different TV shows and movies. I like to call it the Disney disorder, because a lot of the women in my groups and a lot of women that I'm exposed to, they are under the impression that a man is just supposed to find them. They're not supposed to be doing anything. And I saw the pattern in Disney movies. Noticed that the main character was just somewhere doing her thing, and he pops up and told her to come with him, and they're going to be happily ever after. But reality begs to differ. And in reality, ladies, if you actually want a family, if you want to be a part of a relationship, if you want to have a family with children and some structure, the man that you respect, you need to go where the men you respect, where do they hang out? I have a lot of women that are asking me, where do I find these men? I said, well, I'm going to ask you first. It's not who you like. Who do you respect? And a lot of women don't know how to respond to that question. They're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, name one man that you respect. He doesn't have to be single. He can be a married man. Name a man you respect. And she was like, well, I respect my uncle. I said, okay, all right. Why do you respect your uncle? Well, it's his character and this is that and other. I said, well, how much does your uncle make a year? She said, what does that matter? I said, exactly. Your uncle did not have to buy your love. Now, he may have some things. He may have been a provider. But the biggest thing that you love about, do respect about your uncle, is how he carries himself, right? So guess what happens? When you're trying to build a relationship off some genuineness, off a solid foundation, it is not the income, y'all, it's the outcome. What is the outcome you're dealing with? Because if you're going into a relationship being a consumer and not a producer, no matter what your gender is or no matter what your race or your intent is, you're going to be a liability. And a lot of people are being drained in their relationships by people who did not bring anything to the table. And that is a reality. If the only thing that you bring to the table are your expectations will create disappointments. Your disappointments will create resentment. And resentment is the exact opposite of respect. And why do you think it's so much disrespect in our relationships? Because people came in trying to change someone. right? I even tell people, a lot of people say, I know our brother JT asked, well, what is the main difference between men and women, how they approach relationships? So I talked to a young lady the other day. She knows exactly who I'm talking about. I have much respect for her. And we had a really good conversation about this. And for context, which I love to explain before, love to present before I say anything, she does not represent all women, but she represents a lot of women who do the exact same thing she does. And I asked her, I said, well, what do you expect from this young man? Well, we're just hanging out, but I expect him to do X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, well, have you all had an actual conversation about your expectations? She said, no. I said, okay, all right, so let me ask you this. Have you ever had a young man where y'all were just kicking it, y'all didn't have any expectations, but all of a sudden you have this inkling to ask him, what are we or where is this going? She said, yeah. I said, well, why do you do that? She said, well, we were just friends. We were just kicking it, but he started doing relationship stuff. And that's the reason why I always ask. And I'm like, okay, this is where it gets a little different. If you start a relationship, any relationship, on a pretense that we are just friends, this is not going anywhere, but in the back of your mind, you have hope or expectation that the other person does not know about, that is called indirect. The number one, I would say, conflict that I'm seeing in a lot of different relationships is there a clash between direct communicators and indirect communicators. I'm not saying that y'all can't be together, but at least y'all need to be honest about who is who, right? If you're a direct communicator, you need to let them know, because you don't speak with innuendos, you don't drop hints. Whatever you're saying is what you're saying. If you're an indirect communicator, if you like hints, if you like clues, if you like undertones, what you mean by that, right? If you're an indirect communicator, you need to know that you're that, because unfortunately, you have a lot of indirect communicators thinking they're being direct and they are not, right? So if you don't know what you want, you have to be so honest with yourself that you're not going around, I would say faking it till you make it. And that's what's happening. We have a lot of people who are putting forth their representative and they don't even present the truth. They're talking about a political party and they don't even know the person who they're trying to be. So again, this is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh, 404-726-1380. This is not breaking down the family. We need to build it in truth. And if your feelings are hurt because someone told the truth, we're going to ask you to stop lying. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, good evening, ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. We've been talking about a lot of different things today. We're actually going to be talking about forgiveness, what it is and what it ain't on this next segment. A lot of us have been told that forgiveness is... We've been told a lot of things about forgiveness, that we should forgive our enemies, and, be able to let things go and things of that nature. I want people to start investigating certain things about forgiveness. I do want you to look up the root word of the forgiveness. You know what I mean? It's forgiving. That means you're doing something. You're giving before something actually happens. So a lot of times we don't understand this. Forgiveness is actually proactive. Okay. A lot of times we are dealing with a lot of people who have trespassed us, who have deceived us, or even assaulted us, or even betrayed us, right? One of the things that I am learning, remember, this is not the end-all, be-all of forgiveness, but we want to know what it is, because forgiveness is usually for the benefit of the person who's doing the forgiving, okay? One of the things that I am noticing is that forgiveness includes the lack of emotional control that the person has over you, whoever betrayed you, whoever did the violation. Forgiveness lets you become in control of your own emotions. So I'll give you an example. If somebody betrayed you or did something to you and you walk into a room and their presence alone makes it unbearable for you to be there, that lack of forgiveness still has a stronghold or an emotional control over you. That means you have a grudge that's still so heavy that a person's presence can make you lose control. Okay. And so it's not about liking a person. A lot of people think forgiveness is about liking a person. Love is specifically when you look at Corinthians 13, love is patient and kind. All right. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people may not understand about love, love is an action, it's not just a feeling, but this world will convince you that love is just a feeling only. So I'm going to go to Corinthians 13, man. I'm gonna read something for y'all. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. So it's a lot of things that are people, not verse 1, I'm sorry. It's verse 3 and verse 4, okay? And it's just saying that love itself is patient and it is kind. So patience and tolerance is two different things. It didn't say love is tolerant. It said love is patient. And so a lot of people may not understand the difference between patience and tolerance. A lot of times we think being tolerant is patient, and unfortunately, it is not. Okay. So when you see people who don't know how to treat you, patience means self-control. That means you're not in a rush. You're not trying to change anyone. You're in specific, peaceful serenity. And remember that serenity is accepting the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The biggest thing that we want to pay attention to is accepting people for what they just showed us. Acceptance does not mean agreement. Again, I'm going to say that again. Just because you accept the fact that someone actually betrayed you doesn't mean you agree with what happened. Okay. When we're dealing with acceptance is the opposite of denial, and denial is a stage of grief. And so sometimes when we're in denial keeps us out of reality. Reality is our friend when we're trying to deal with truth. All right. So when someone is showing you who they are, your job is to make sure you accept what just happened. You don't have to assume, but you have to accept. All right. Now, this is the assumption part that I want y'all to be very careful about. When someone does something, please be careful of trying to investigate the reason why they did it instead of the fact that they did it. Sometimes we look for reasons and ignore the facts. Okay. Let me explain what I'm saying. If a person just did something that really just declined or just lowered the level of safety in your environment, instead of investigating, wondering why they're doing what they're doing, you need to accept the fact that they did what they just did, and then you need to adjust accordingly to make sure that you and your loved one gets to a safe space. It's almost like if someone starts doing something in public that decreases the safety, right? You just have to accept the fact, okay, that person right now just put us in danger. You do not have to find out the reason why they're doing it for you to take cover, right? So I want y'all to look at it just like that when it comes down to forgiveness. Forgiveness is accepting what just happened. You can't change what just happened, but you do accept it, and you don't have to investigate it. You have the courage to change the things you can. That means you have to have enough courage to not be around that person, because patience and kindness, patience does not mean you have to tolerate any disrespect. In 2026, we're seeing people who are noticing their limits, their psychological limits when it comes down to verbal, physical, emotional, and mental abuse. A lot of us have been tolerating things our entire lives, and now we're noticing in our adulthood we're not as tolerant. See, a lot of people call tolerance strength. They are not the same. Okay. Strength is very different. Strength is used to move certain things. Tolerance is if you just bear the disrespect and just allow the access to continue. Now, one of the things that we need to understand about biblical love is patient and kind, but you do not need to tolerate things that do not put you in a safe space. Okay. So when you are patient, that means that person does not control your emotions. When you're kind, that means you are consistent with the kind of person you are, because that true love, you don't allow people to change who you are. You're not trying to change them, and you don't allow what they did to change you. Patience and kindness one-on-one. It does not brag. It does not boast. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing. I hope y'all understand that. It's not one of those things. It does not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own. It is not easily provoked. It thinketh no evil. It doesn't rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. That's the reason why we've been talking about truth all day. See, at the end of the day, when we are looking at how people treat us, are you telling yourself the truth about what you're looking at? Or are you still dealing in hope and wishing that this person will change? Changing people may not be our job. Believing and serving people may be our job. You believe the behavior and you serve them accordingly, right? If you can help somebody, you help them as long as they can be helped. But you have to be honest as well. Some people may not want your help, and then that's when you refer. You're patient and kind with them. You're not subservient. You're patient and kind. Self-love is not one of those things where you have to sacrifice your dignity for validation or acceptance. All right. You may have to accept the fact that they did it, but you're not looking for their acceptance because you may not even give it. The worst thing you want to do is be accepted in a place you're not supposed to be. That's one of the worst things. And I want y'all to understand where disappointment really comes from. Disappointment comes from appointing people who never applied for the position that you're putting them in. A lot of people do not want and may not want to be in a position you hope them for them to be in. You may want to be close to someone. They may not want to be close to you. You may want to be friends with someone. They may not want to be friends with you. You may want to be in a relationship with someone. They may not want to be in a relationship with you. And one of the biggest things about disappointment, we have to learn how to process disappointment from time to time, y'all, because this whole world, this thing we call life, is learning and formidable experiences. And life is an acronym that I help some of my kids out. Is the 4 things that life will test you with. It's loss, injury, fatigue, and embarrassment. I want y'all to remember this. This is an acronym for life, the 4 tests of life. Loss, injury, fatigue, and embarrassment. Who are you and how do you treat people after a loss? Who are you when you're injured? Who are you when you're fatigued? And more importantly, a lot of people cannot stand this. They have a lot of strength for everything, but a lot of people cannot handle being embarrassed. They cannot handle it. And so a lot of times when we don't understand who we are, we don't know how to handle the test of life, and we end up taking it out on the people that's right in front of us. So that forgiveness is not about liking people. That forgiveness is not about allowing people to continue to disrespect you or to continue to put you in harm's way. Forgiveness is patient and kind. And one of the first people you have to be patient and kind with is yourself. This is News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for Brother Derrick Boazman. We appreciate it. 404-726-1380. You're listening to Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh. We are back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, standing in for the great brother Derrick Boazman. This is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of Manhood Mindset. I want to give a shout out to Austin McCall. Austin McCall is the man behind the scenes. He set up everything. He welcomed me with open arms, man. He's just giving me a lot of great advice. He's in education. He's a father, family man, just not a father. I'm sorry. Well, you're father to a lot of those kids in the school. There you go. I got you. He's like, get that straight, man. I got people listening. But I got you, man. But thank you. Shout out to Austin McCall, y'all. Y'all give him some love. I appreciate that, man. So we got some callers coming in. It's 404-726-1380. It looks like we have Yessie. Is Yessie still up? Yessie, can you hear me? This is Dr. Pugh. Yessie, can you hear me?
Dr. Pugh, glad you're doing well. Love your show so far.
Thank you.
I love your name, beloved. I ain't gonna joke. You sound like a character from a children's book.
Hey, I'll take it. Hopefully I need to write one then. That's the sign.
I'm telling you, take the doctor off and let him grow into the doctor so that young people will see a hero grow up.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna take that into consideration.
I apologize, Dr. Pugh. You said?
No, I said I'll take that into consideration, but I'm listening. Go ahead.
I like your foundational attitude. We some of us are scholarly. We tend to scholarship ourselves out of our faith and that unction that lives inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And the time we're living in is so prevalent to the majesty of the mind of our Heavenly Father,
mm-hmm.
to show us in advance some of the character traits that we be able to see in the world while we're navigating bringing His people back to His fold,
for sure.
assembling His people. and navigating a lot of the falsehood and what people call religion,
right,
versus the truth of faith and love. So
for sure.
You mentioned in that blueprint that you get the standards from.
Yeah, Genesis. Yes, sir.
What's important to convey to me, beloved, is there is a choice. You can choose to go against the blueprint. And because of the forgiveness of our Father, he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you have to keep in mind the instructions that came out of even the little bit of word we have.
Mm-hmm.
This is for those who overcome. Some people are going to be greedy. They're just thinking about money all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to overcome that. Not that money is bad. You're going to have to overcome that guiding your spirit.
Correct.
Some is lust. Some is it's power.
Mm-hmm.
And once you realize that's the goal for your soul, not your ego and your identity as a citizen, your soul, you realize you're here for the whole rest of the creation.
Yes, sir.
And that's what makes this worth doing. When you realize, when you get to the point that you know you're looking at God in yourself and everybody you look at, they just don't know it.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. I'm listening, Elder.
Hello?
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm listening to you.
Oh, I'm just appreciating where you came from.
Oh man, thank you so much. I was in the process of reading Corinthians 13, verse 4, starting at verse 4. Do you mind if I read that with you while you're on the line? It's
by all means, do.
Yes, sir. So it's basically, we were talking about our childhoods earlier, and I was just reading it as you were talking. It was talking about love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, and that's what a lot of our relationships include. So a lot of people say, I love you, that's the reason why I envied you. I loved you, that's the reason why I boasted. That I loved you, that's the reason why I was acting all proud. But it's just said right here in the word that it cancels it out. It does not dishonor others, just like we were talking about earlier, how we dishonor the co-parent in front of our children. It is not self-seeking. It's not selfish. So when people don't want to talk about what they bring to the relationship, they're already self-seeking. They're not even serving. They're self-seeking. It is not easily angered. So a lot of people who are overly emotional and not just forthcoming with the truth, people who are easily angered, it's not love. So unfortunately, we have a lot of men who believe drama is love because that's what they grew up watching their entire life. It keeps no records of wrong. Said love does not.
Doctor,
yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean. I'm with you. What I'd like to reiterate to the listeners is, even though we're talking about these things, when I say overcoming, we're in the world. We were born from our mother's womb into this world that was already functioning in the prophetic mode of deception. It's already happening. So the people that are listening, I'm not pointing out things to say you're not serving God correctly. I'm pointing out things to help you be a better God. And that's what God sent Yeshua HaMashiach to tell us. Okay, all the things you're going to mess up on, we know that's going to happen. However, you are going to be able to have, hindsight and sharpen up your foresight. And then, again, I can't emphasize how much more satisfying this thing we call life is, which continues after here, when you realize that other person you're talking to, no matter what they are, what color they are you. They are the same God you are.
Yep.
And when they realize that and you get in one accord and harmony on that, bam.
Correct.
Victory.
Correct. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Brother Yessie. Anything else you'd like to add before we go to our next caller?
Just be mindful of the love that we need to keep increasing in, beloved. Thank you for your work.
I appreciate you. I appreciate your life, and I appreciate your truth and your words, brother. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. All right, we're going to come back for shortly. News and talk. WAOK, the voice of the community, 404-726-1380. We're back. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community, 404-726-1380. That number again, 404-726-1380. Sitting in for Brother Derrick Boazman. My name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh of manhoodmindset.com. Well, up next, we have Sherry D. from Atlanta. Sherry D., are you here?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for calling in. What's your statement or comment?
So, Dr. Pugh, I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions of you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for making sure that what you are doing is rooted in Scripture.
Yes, ma'am.
And I apologize if I ask a question of something that you have mentioned earlier, but I've been running errands, but enjoying listening to as much of this show as I possibly can. So I'll have to go back and listen to the whole thing later.
Sure.
But I also wanted to ask you, are you familiar with BSF, Bible Study Fellowship?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so it is a 7-year study of the Bible.
Okay.
And so the listeners can go back and look at that, look at it later. But it is a 7-year study of the Bible, and the men and the women actually have separate classes.
Good.
And there are separate classes for the children, and for the infants and toddlers, they have classes for them also with free daycare.
Okay.
So, but all of that to say, I think one of the main things that is missing, and the reason why everything is so chaotic, and you tell me if you agree with this, is because many of us don't believe that we need to go to church. And if we do, whether we do or not, we don't believe that we need to study Scripture. Do you agree with that?
I have seen that pattern before. One of the things that I have seen is that a lot of people have different experiences with that word and how they got introduced. So when people say the church, I always ask, what church did you go to? Because your church wasn't the church, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so a lot of us and I used to say those types of things like the church, and I had to stop saying it because it wasn't genuine and it wasn't accurate, because I've never been to the means one, right? But I understand that where 2 or 3 gathered, he will be in the midst,
Exactly.
right? So the church is not a building. So I was using the word church in a building sense, and I was using it out of context. So anytime when I say church, I would say, the church, the people, or I would be talking about the synagogue or the church, the building. You know what I mean? So right now, the church never left. It just has to go back to where Christ built his rock upon respect. So when he talked with Peter and said, who do people say that I am? And then he said, who do you say that I am? And when he said, look, man, I think you the one and only Son of God. And he said, upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. That's the church that I needed to start talking about, not the different buildings that we attended. You know what I mean? So I became more responsible for my words. I don't know everything, but I do know what damage can be caused if I'm too general, if that makes any sense. So when we leave the rock, when we leave the foundation, which is the truth of it, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and the reason why I was asking is because Bible study is the key. And a lot of people say, I don't need to go to church because I can read the Bible myself. But many don't. And if you do and you don't actually study it and study it with people that know a little bit more about it than you, that you can trust, then you can end up like, Jim Jones and drinking the Kool-Aid and all of that stuff, because you have to know the truth, and you have to respect yourself and know God for yourself.
For sure.
And at different points in our lives, we receive different scriptures in different ways, and that's why it's a living word.
Yep.
But also, and a lot of people get caught up in that. They said, I've been going to church all my life, but they've been physically going to church, but they really don't know the word. And some people get caught up in sitting on the pew, but they're not involved in any of the ministries that would allow them to serve and to honor themselves.
Right.
So even though I am an Atlanta native, I've lived all over the country.
Okay.
And when I lived in Chicago, a lot of the churches there would not marry a couple if they did not go through their marriage classes. Now, I never heard of that in Atlanta. I don't know if they've ever done it here. I don't know if they still do it in Chicago, because I left Chicago in 2001. But I think that, there is a place for that, because those marriage classes allow people to talk about things that they typically gloss over. And, one of those things is money. Isn't that the biggest reasons why people get a divorce?
Yep.
So I think that a lot of us just really believe that we can do it, whatever it is, on our own. We don't need others to tell us. We don't need to study the word. We know the word. And I think that's where we get caught up. And I also think that's why there used to be a saying that black people didn't commit suicide. But now that's not true. And I believe because people don't know the word, they don't know who God is, they don't have a relationship with him. And so they don't know it's something bigger than themselves when somebody unfriends them on Facebook or they get hurt. Have you run into that in your practice at all?
I got into this practice because I was exposed at an early age to risky behavior that led to suicide for a lot of people. I actually witnessed so many people who there are different forms of the type of behavior that I'm talking about. I've seen some people who ended their own lives, but I also saw people who put themselves in a position where their lives could be ended prematurely. They just were not the ones that did it. There's a lot of people who really don't know what to do in certain situations, and it's a very touchy subject because I still don't have an answer. I've been around it since I was a kid, and I still don't have answers, but I do have the truth. The truth of the matter is that a lot of people feel that they're better off not here, and I don't know why. Right. But that is I had to accept it because I was in denial for a while. But like, if we can help so many people, and you can just do this, and they'll stop doing that. Right. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed in people's heads. You know what I mean? I'm not allowed in their relationship between them and God. It's very, very personal. You know what I mean? And what I had to do was be very, very respectful without being disheartened. So when I see people suffering like that, I try to give them as much truth as possible without antagonizing them or patronizing them, because there's so much pain that I'm not allowed to feel with them, but I have to respect them to a certain point where they can actually hear my voice. So I have been exposed to that quite a bit. And honestly, I just got off the phone with a person who has ideation not too long ago that I just had to refer. So it's out here heavy. It's out here heavy.
So thank you for the great work that you're doing. Yes. We're going to thank DB for allowing you to fill his big shoes today. Definitely. I've learned a lot, and I especially like the work that you're doing with youth. We have a group of advocates called Ed Advocates ATL, where we are trying to bridge the gap between there not being parents and grandparents not being able to go to the schools.
For sure.
But those in the neighborhood who can go need to be the intercessors, because if our children cannot read, it is a societal issue and it impacts all of us, whether we have children or grandchildren or not. So the work that you're doing to make sure that they get exposed is commendable. I hope Boazman allows you to come back in the future when he's out. And I'll be going to your website and your social media page. Yes, Keep up the good work. We appreciate you.
I really appreciate you as well. I want to leave you with something. I know you said earlier about church attendance. Right now, church attendance has to be added to church Bible application, right? So it's a lot of people who may attend church, but they don't apply it. So the application is missing. You know, action speaks louder than the words. It's one thing about studying, but you're too scared. You know, a lot of people have test anxiety, right? So we can study for the test, but if people don't walk in that room to take that test, they won't pass to the next level. So we need church application.
Yeah, remember what Gandhi said. Gandhi said the Christians have the best doctrine there is, but we're not walking the walk.
Man, and I see it, and I'm a part of that. That's why I have to practice it in front of them. The kids, the babies are watching, and they believe what I do. They don't. What I say sounds great, but a lot of young people believe what I did.
Amen. Thank you. Ma'am. Keep up the good work.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. News and
Appreciate
Talk.
you.
Yes, ma'am. News and Talk, WAOK, the voice of the community. We really appreciate everyone. We're winding down. We're almost in the last couple of minutes. The number is 404-726-1380. I know we're about to go to a brief break. We know we'll go home. Okay, yeah, this is the end of the show. All right, so what I want to do is just tell everyone thank you so much for your listening ears. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to Brother Derrick Boazman. Without him, this would not be possible for me. Derrick Boazman has been there for me ever since I met him in 2008. Just a backstory, I know Derrick Boazman even helped raise some money for my alma mater, Cedar Grove High School, a couple of weeks ago. And he putting this on the radio really helped us get shirts and ties and robes and senior dues paid for the students. I really appreciate all the callers that called in, people who donated. I personally want to let you know, thank you. We showed up on Friday of graduation to help tie the ties of the young men, put on their shirts, help the ladies get their things together. And there's so many confident young people who were appreciative to know that the city was sitting behind them. There are so many different high schools and middle schools who need your help. And so if you advocate for some of these schools and organizations and communities, please reach out. You'd be surprised who want to help. They just need to know who needs to help, right? Again, my name is Dr. Marion Christopher Pugh, manhoodmindset.com. I'm a mental health professional. I am in the process of getting my license because I respect the field. I'm an educational consultant. I go into a lot of different educational communities, a lot of different school districts, and I'm a trainer across the country. So if you're interested, please hit me up at info@manhoodmindset.com, manhoodmindset.com on the internet, and all of my social media, Manhood Mindset. Thank you so much, Atlanta. We appreciate it. We love you. Peace.